Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're ready for another week of madness. So, of course, this is the Tuesday live stream. I'm also on Friday night, and I'll be on the post-stream chat for about half an hour this evening. So I hope you're able to join me then. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Of course, Donald Trump is taking on the BBC. Unemployment is up. Workers' rights bill has passed, well, the first stage, it seems, through the House of Commons. And a few other stories as well I want to cover. The first one, of course, is about, well, a deal that the government and the Trump administration were planning to sign off on, but it seems that Trump has pulled the plug on that. Downing Street insists negotiations over US-UK tech deal still live. So from the BBC, it says, Downing Street says the UK remains in active conversations with the US counterparts at all levels of government about a wide-ranging tech deal. The BBC understands talks over the technology prosperity deal have stalled because of US concerns about what it considers to be wider UK trade barriers. Billed as historic when it was unveiled during the US President Donald Trump's state visit in September, the partnership saw both countries pledge to cooperate further in areas such as AI and quantum computing. So this was presented as a massive win, and I think it was something very positive in a number of ways for the UK, because AI is the future. Quantum computing is the future, and there was an opportunity post-Brexit for the UK to sign off on a deal with the US. Now, I mentioned before there are risks involved here. The AI companies had been viewing the UK as loose when it comes to regulations, and they saw it as perhaps a playground to test out new technologies. Now, that may still go ahead, but it seems that the US is holding back on this. Now, this could be, of course, another attempt by Donald Trump to strong-arm the UK into signing off more concessions. We saw when it came to the NHS. NHS medicines are going to go up. The cost that the NHS pays for medicines from the US is going to go up about 25% in some cases as a result of this deal. So Trump has said, yeah, I'm going to remove the tariffs, but in return, the NHS is going to have to pay more for US medicines. It would be advisable for the UK or the NHS to source medicines outside the US in order to avoid these problems. But maybe this is part of the problem here as well, that they're trying to avoid this situation, and the Trump administration is responding by punishing the UK. Once again, as I keep saying, when it comes to Donald Trump, you cannot rely on him. You cannot trust a word he's saying, because he will sign a deal today and he'll tear it up 24 hours later. Now, it seems that this is on hold. It hasn't been cancelled. But I think it's another case of Donald Trump trying to extract more concessions, and we're going to have to wait and see how this pans out. No one should make a deal with Trump. No one. Starmer is weak. Starmer is attempting to try and balance the EU on one side and Trump on the other. But while, if you do a deal with the EU, it will be written in stone. While with the US under Donald Trump, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Tariffs only hurt the US. Yes, and this is another point that the Republicans, the MAGA people, don't seem to understand, is that they end up paying the tariff. Trump keeps selling this idea that other countries pay the tariff. No, whoever is importing pays the tariff. It's designed to make imports too expensive in order to encourage people to buy domestically. But if the goods are not produced in the US, or it's not feasible to produce them in the US, or if it is produced but it's too expensive, well, slapping a tariff is supposed to help the domestic production, but if it's not produced in the US, you're just going to make it more expensive for no reason, because there's no benefit there. Trump is trying to sell it as this is a massive win for the US Treasury, where they're taking in a huge amount of money, but they're robbing people and then selling it as an idea that, hey, the economy is booming. And it's important to watch. The economy will prosper under this AI bubble. And when I talk about an AI bubble, I'm not talking about AI collapsing. I'm talking about companies who are it's a strange situation that's taking place at the moment when it comes to these AI companies. It seems that OpenAI is investing in NVIDIA, which produces the chips, and then NVIDIA is investing in AI, and it's a sort of circle that's taking place where one company is investing in another, the other is investing in the first company, and they are buying up or promising to make massive investments as a result of these seed investments or initial investments. But there's a real risk that this money is not actually coming from anywhere. It's just circling between these individual companies. And if one of them has a problem, then the whole thing comes crashing down. There are startups that are receiving billions of dollars of investment, companies that have set up overnight. This is concerning as well because there's no demonstration that these companies can actually turn a profit. So we're seeing something similar to the dot-com bubble at the early 2000s. Once again, AI is here to stay. AI is going to take people's jobs, and I'm going to get to that in a moment as well. But the companies that are seeing huge amounts of money going in, they are risking complete collapse. And we've seen OpenAI reach out to the US administration, the US government, to provide them as some sort of support if things do collapse. So the taxpayer, in a bit like the 2007-2008 crisis, the taxpayer may come along and bail them out, a bit like the banks. Kirsty, thank you so much for that super chat. Great to see you on the stream tonight. Why is there such a surprise to Starmer? Why is this such a surprise to Starmer? We've been saying Trump was going to get his hands on the NHS and everything else. I don't know why this is a surprise to Starmer, or maybe he is pretending to be surprised. I think what Starmer has been trying to do over the last number of years, or the last number of months since Trump took over, but also viewing Trump from afar for a number of years, is let's pander to him and then he will look at us in a favorable way. But it doesn't work like that. Trump is completely unreliable. While in the past he had the adults in the room that directed him in the right way, now he's completely unleashed. And he's signing off executive orders left, right, and center. He doesn't even know what's contained within them. And when it comes to the tariffs, I don't know if he honestly believes this, but he seems to believe that tariffs are a way of raising finance for the US, when in reality it's just taking money from importers or people or the general public. Ordinary people are really struggling at the moment. And one thing that's really expensive is health insurance. And as the population gets older, it relies more on healthcare, and it's becoming incredibly expensive. But yes, we've been saying for some time that the US, particularly Donald Trump, wants to get his hands on the NHS. They want to see more of it privatized. They want to see it opened up to private companies, and they want to see something like an American model replicated in the UK. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I've warned about this, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen that way. I think it's more likely that the private companies will operate within the NHS, and then it will be just a case of the taxpayer providing these companies with the finance that they want, the money that they need. So you're going to have a sort of private. The back end of the NHS will be private, the front end will be public, and people will not pay for medical treatment. When you go into hospital, you don't pay. But in reality, what's happening is the taxpayer is compensating these private companies. There's a lot of privatization already taking place within the NHS, which is more and more concerning. And we have Wes Streeting continually saying how the NHS needs to rely on the private sector, when it should be going in the opposite direction. Thanks, Kirsty, for that. Compare Trump's response to the death of Kyle Rayner to the relevance bestowed upon fucking Charlie Kirk. Well said, yeah. This was unbelievable. Well, almost unbelievable. Trump turned around and made it all about him. He's like, I don't know if you have the same expression in your part of the world, but in Ireland we normally say you don't speak ill of the dead. And, if I heard that somebody I disliked online or whatever had been killed or had died, I'd either say nothing or I'd say something positive. Like, if you can't say something positive, then don't say anything at all. But it's what Trump turning around and we're talking about a film director. We're not talking about a politician. Even if it were a politician, you shouldn't say something like this. But the guy was not a politician. He had no power. Trump treating him with nothing but contempt. On the day he died, instead of saying something like, this is terrible, our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends, and just leave it at that. But he can't do it. He's either lost his mind completely, or this is the real Trump. It's all about him. And I think it's more about him, all about him. Because on the 11th of September, when the Twin Towers were coming down, were crashing to the ground, what was Trump talking about? Was he talking about the victims? Was he talking about this terrible situation? No, he was talking about how his tower is now the tallest in New York. It's all about, he's a complete and utter narcissist. He has no empathy whatsoever. So even when fellow Americans were being killed on the 11th of September, he was talking about himself and celebrating almost. Freckle Punny, thank you so much for that super chat. Can one of us get a job at Trump's personal chef and load his meals with trans fats and let him have the ironic coronary? Yes. Yeah, tell him it's trans. And maybe Elon Musk as well. Tell him that there are trans fats in his food. Wasn't it Trump was talking about how the what was it? The mice had been turned trans, but in reality it was transgenic. Yeah, it wasn't transgender. It was the mice have been turned transgender, and somebody said no, it's actually transgenic. We changed the genes within the mice. It's like, what? Yeah, but there's no point explaining it. The damage had already been done. Brian, thank you so much for that super chat as well. When Trump goes, we won't be speaking. Sorry, I can't read it this far away. Let me move this over here a little bit. When Trump goes, we won't be speaking ill of him. We'll be merchant banking ill of him. Love the hat. Thanks, Sammy. Merchant banking. Thanks for that, Brad, as well. And Freckle Bunny. Have to say the only people that seem interested in AI is business. To the average person, it's a pain in the arse and hate it. And we are in our 30s and techie and should like it. I think a lot of the exposure that people have is, of course, through AI slop. The sort of videos that that your grandparents or uncle or whatever are sharing on social media, claiming, "Hey, did you see this? Did you see the news?" I think there's a lot of that, and of course, it's really worrying, that aspect of it as well. That people have been convinced by pretty dodgy videos. And it's extremely dangerous because it's seeding in people's minds. There are a whole number of scandals about it as well, about teenagers taking their lives over, spending too much time with the chatbot, and the chatbot basically telling them, to distance themselves from their families. These things have changed, but these are things that have happened, and the more exposure people have to AI, the more we're going to see of that. It's also going to take people's jobs. And I want to get to that as well. In relation to that, I want to cover this story here, which is about the jobs figures.
We want to get you to some breaking news here, though. Unemployment figures have just been released for the month of October. Gurpreet's here to break it down for us. What jumps out for you, Gurpreet?
Yeah, so the headline rate of unemployment has risen to 5.1% in October. Just to put that in a bit of context, that's the highest unemployment rate now we've had since early 2021. So deep, dark days of the pandemic.
And this is another thing that Labour need to start dealing with. They need to realise that young people are being forced out of the jobs market, either by AI or maybe by some of their policies, but also that businesses are not investing in people anymore. And it's going to become more and more difficult for young people. It's going to become difficult for everyone. And if people are not seeing an improvement in their lives, they're not going to vote for the Labour Party, and and more people are going to vote for reform.
Of the lockdowns. And to give you a sense of what's kind of happened over the past year, when we talk about a 5.1% unemployment rate, in the year to November, about 171,000 staff roles have disappeared from payrolls. 171,000 people. Now, that's a mixture of people retiring and not being replaced. It might be people who have actually been sacked. It might be employers just not kind of pulling up the ladder on graduate recruitment. But 171,000, 38,000 on the month alone. So this is quite significant. And all of which is to say it's a lot more competitive out there to get a job. So not only are there more people now looking for work, but vacancies, if we look back to kind of 2022, they've been pretty much consistently shrinking quarter on quarter. We've had a bit of let up here and there. Most recently, the figures show us that vacancies were flat, but they're still lower than they were back in 2022. And the best way to really think about that is to look at the ratio of unemployed person to job. Now, there are 2.5 unemployed people for every job that's out there. This time last
2.5 unemployed people for every job. DWP is to blame this for this unemployment rate. The DWP are telling people you need to get out and do these jobs, but there aren't enough jobs. There are 2 people for every job that's available.
Last year, we were talking about 1.8. And I think it's just worth saying that all of this is really hurting young people the most because it's entry-level work. If you look at those vacancies, it's at the entry level that they're really shrinking.
And there's a huge problem here is because if young people are not able to get on to... why do people shout a lot? I'm not sure what that's about. Suzanne. Well, when it comes to young people, if they're not getting on the career ladder at the beginning, it makes it more difficult for them to earn enough later on. So lack of employment at the beginning of people's career has a long-term impact on their ability to earn later on. And as we're going to hear, a part of this is related to AI.
There's a lot going on there. We know things like retail, hospitality, which have been really hit hard by employment taxes, by NICS increases. They have been shrinking, and they're the ones that give opportunities to young people often. Also have graduate jobs. There's a lot going on structurally in the employment market with AI. Maybe NICS has encouraged some businesses to accelerate investment in AI because now employment is so expensive. But there's loads.
It's a sort of catch-22. Many companies are investing more in AI because they think it's too expensive to hire young people, and then as they're investing more in AI, they're making it more difficult for young people to come in and do these jobs. Now, there are jobs available, but it's becoming more and more difficult, as we heard from this report. So something has to happen. And you can't rely on business to do something. You need the public sector. You need the government to do something. I've mentioned before a UBI. Mentioned before universal basic services. We're going to have to move to something like that. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get there the right way. What the government should be doing is talking about it now. When was the last time you heard somebody talk about AI, apart from myself and maybe some people on YouTube? When was the last time you heard the government minister talking about AI in a sense of a UBI? So I should say, when I say AI, I meant UBI. When was the last time I heard somebody talking about UBI, Universal Basic Income? Like, I've covered it on the channel a number of times. I had somebody on, I had an interview with a guy about it, an expert on it. But we're not hearing much about it. And I think there's a real problem that we're going to get to a stage where there'll be pressure on governments to start rolling out a UBI, but there'll be a massive amount of pushback because people will not have been prepared for it. You're going to have a situation where there's mass unemployment or significant amount of unemployment, and people are going to be rioting in the streets if the government do not step in and provide some sort of support. We saw it during the pandemic where people were told to stay at home and they were provide furlough. So you need something like that, because you're going to have a situation where young people are not being able to get onto the job market. And once again, this is not a temporary thing. It's not like, okay, well, these jobs will eventually be created after we go through this period of AI. No, this is a permanent change. I think this is something that governments don't seem to understand, or if they do, they don't want to talk about it because they don't have a solution. Politics is like the premise of Predator Badlands. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. Is there some connection between the national fiscal economic outlook, reducing spending power, reservations from employers about cautious times leading to reduction in job opportunity. I think there is. I haven't seen the data, but it's certainly looking like that, where, once again, employers are worried about the future. So they're holding back on investment. Investment obviously creates jobs, because if you expand your business, you need more workers. So they're holding back. And then you have this thing of AI, where businesses are tapping into the use of AI. In some cases, instead of employing new people, they're offloading a lot of the responsibility onto existing staff. Most of you probably, if you're working in offices, your boss or your manager has come to you and asked you about working more with AI to help you speed up your work, to do some of the work itself. And we're going to see more and more of that. And my advice to people would be, look, we can't avoid this, but you need to train up yourself. You need to get familiar with the skill, with the tools, because then you can offer it to your employer as, hey, don't sack me. I know how to use these tools, and I can use these tools to make myself more productive. At least that would buy you time until you're replaced by the tools themselves. But a lot of people are sticking their heads in the sand, and this is really worrying. Anyway, guys, let's move on to a big story. Hopefully this is a big story. Hopefully it's going to have a real impact on politics. Urgent review announced into foreign interference in British politics. And there's the guy Nathan Gill from Reform. Sir Keir Starmer has authorised an urgent review into the extent of foreign interference in British politics as he prepares to change the law to tighten donation rules. Look, I've said before, donations should be banned, especially foreign donations. But donations have to be banned, because if you ban just foreign donations or limit them, then all somebody has to do is set up a company or use an existing company in the UK and use that to funnel money into the likes of Nigel Farage's bank account. Ministers have initiated a rapid inquiry into current financial rules on donations and election safeguards, which will report at the end of March. The inquiry is a direct response to the jailing of Nathan Gill, the former leader of Reform UK in Wales, who admitted accepting tens of thousands of pounds in cash to make pro-Russian statements to the media and the European Parliament. In the case, officers said that they believe some individuals had a direct link to Vladimir Putin. Community Secretary Steve Reid, who announced the inquiry to the Commons on Tuesday, wants Mr. Rycroft to assess how well the rules work at the moment, and promise the report will be published in full. So a bit more on that from the Minister himself.
The case of the former MEP Nathan Gill has revealed the threat our democracy faces today. And I know it has caused deep concern right across the House. On Friday, the 21st of November 2025, Mr. Gill was sentenced to 10.5 years in prison for accepting bribes linked to the Russian state and attempting to advance that state's twisted interests. It is right that we now take a step back to look at how we can protect our democracy against such appalling crimes. An elected politician took bribes to parrot the lies of a hostile state responsible for the death of Dawn Sturgis, a British citizen on British soil. He took the side of those responsible for invading a sovereign European state. And he was prosecuted while Putin's military targeted the civilian men, women and children of Ukraine. At the time, he sat as a member of the European Parliament, supposedly representing the British people, and went on to become a senior leader of a UK political party. Mr. Speaker, we must learn the lessons so this can never happen again.
Well said. Sarah in the chat says, go straight after Farage. He's the ringleader. Yeah, look, there needs to be a full investigation into all of this, and it must not be limited to Russia. We know the Tories took money from the Russians as well, but there are other countries around the world that have been pumping money into political parties and using or offering something in return, bribing political parties, bribing MPs to influence politics, influence policy. So it should not be limited just to Russia. Okay, there are a lot of other countries that have been dabbling in UK politics as well, donating to political parties or individuals. But Sarah is correct when it comes to Reform UK. They need to go after Nigel Farage. Now, it's important that this is done in the right way, that this, and the US as well, says Rachel. It's important that this is done the right way, that it's not just presented as some sort of witch hunt after Farage, that all political parties are investigated. Because if it's presented as, well, let's go after Nigel Farage, Farage will turn himself into some sort of victim, and he will convince the media and he will convince the public that it's all about him. It's that Labour are falling behind in the polls and this is an attack on Reform UK. So it needs to be as transparent as possible. And it needs to be as wide as possible. Now, the wider you go, of course, the longer it will take and the more money it will cost. But this is about protecting democracy. So there are a number of different parties who have all taken money from foreign entities or foreign leaders. And this all has to be brought out and as transparent as possible. Brad, thanks so much once again. Farage broke the world record for fastest loss of an erection between seeing Donald Trump suing the BBC and the government announcing this investigation. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The BBC. Oh no! Damn it! Now I'm going to be investigated. And you can... Thanks, Brad. World record there. But it will be interesting to see what comes out of this report. How much money has... And, they need, as a result of this, to clamp down on these donations. They need to ban foreign donations, or they need to ban... I'm of the idea of banning all donations. Political parties should be publicly funded so that politicians, well, they're answerable to the public. They actually work for the public as opposed to working for their donors. There would be no incentive for corruption, because corruption is about giving politicians money in order to get something in return. But if political parties were publicly funded, then there'd be no incentive. There'd be no point in giving money to politicians, because you wouldn't be able to do it. First of all, it would be banned. But even if you were to try, it would damage the political party. Look, it was discovered that they were taking money on the side. Then the politicians could end up in prison for taking money. Can you imagine a situation where politicians end up in jail for taking money from millionaires or billionaires? I know this would give Nigel Farage, put him in a cold sweat. But that's what you'd need, a situation like that. Because what's the point in having political parties if they're doing the bidding of a small number of individuals? What about right-wing Christian groups spending money in the UK, for example, concerning abortion? And this has to be investigated. This would be a separate thing, but it would have to be investigated as well. Like, who are these organizations? What are they doing? How are they spending this money? Money coming into the country should be checked. And I think what these Christian groups are doing is it's about power. It's about influence. It's hard to see what their end goal is and do they think they'll be successful, but they are certainly spending a lot of money convincing the public that they need to roll back protections, for example, for women and gay people. Sovereign state of Longford. Longford is always in a state. Then don't visit, okay? Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story. Let me bring it up here. So some good news. It's important that we cover some good news as well. So this seems to be in regards to workers' rights. So let me bring this up here, if I can find it. Here we go. So you should be able to see some of it. Labour's flagship workers' rights bill passes through Parliament after months of debate. The government's flagship employment rights bill has passed through Parliament. It means the reforms are set to achieve royal assent and will become law. So it's passed through its final hurdle. The bill contains a crackdown on zero-hour contracts and day one rights to statutory sick pay. Now, I think the latter here, of course, so zero-hour contracts, it's good that they're being reduced. It's not going far enough, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. When it comes to day one rights to statutory sick pay, this has been controversial because employers have been saying, look, you can't be forcing us to extend these rights to workers from day one. We need time to determine whether these people are employable or not. But then on the other side, well, it's not really fair that somebody is working for a period of time and they have no rights, in a sense. They can be sacked at any moment. Now, they have some rights up to, I think, about 6 months or a number of months, but it's not like an employee. So it was a difficult balance, maybe. You want to be able to allow employers to hire the right people, but because if you make it too strict, then they won't take a chance on people. But on the other side, Labour is the party of workers, so they should be on the side of workers, and they should be strong-arming employers in a way to protect workers. So this has been a bit of a back and forth between the government and employers. It also contains protections under unfair dismissal for all workers after 6 months of employment, down from the current threshold of 2 years. So that's very positive. The draft law originally sought to establish this from day one, but peers rejected this, and a compromise was reached between MPs, those in the Lords, and trade unions. So yes, so instead of going from day one, it will go to 6 months. The bill has been subject to extensive parliamentary ping pong since first being voted on by MPs back in March. Well, that's normal. This has been in the peers. This has seen some peers in the House of Lords reject elements of it and sending it back to the Commons, only for MPs to fire back to the Lords once again. After this afternoon, peers have finally voted the bill through after 9 months of ping pong. Angela Rayner, former Deputy Prime Minister, championed the bill while in government, and last night called on MPs to sit through the night if peers sought to run the clock down on the proposals. The bill needed to be passed this week in order to receive royal assent before Parliament breaks up for the Christmas recess on Thursday. And then they go on holiday again for another couple of months or whatever it is. So no, this is good. It's not perfect, but it's definitely an improvement for workers. And this is something that the Labour Party can sell to the public as, look, what we did was we promised this legislation, it would improve the rights of workers, and it's something they can sell to voters as something that's improving their lives. Now, once again, a lot of it comes down to communicating. Is it going to be communicated to the public? Well, we'll have to wait and see. The M5, when it was built, unlike the N5, bypass all of County Longford. 6 months, says Reagan Elite. I hope, Reagan Elite, that you had some progress in your... So Reagan Elite is a fellow YouTuber, for those who don't know, who had his account shut down, or the AdSense part of his account shut down, and I'm hoping you were able to resolve that. I know they can be really difficult to work with. It can be difficult to get a response from them. Holiday, if only. I have a nice cozy space in the number 10 garden shed. Well, good for you, Sir Larry the cat. No, I will chase them up in a few days, Max. Keep you informed. Thanks for that. Best of luck. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story, which is, of course, Donald Trump versus the BBC. God, my goodness, it's pure insanity. Trump sues BBC for $10 billion in lawsuits. So it started out as, was it 1 million or was it 1 billion? Now it's gone up to 10 billion. Clips spliced together from sections of the US president's speech on the 6th of January 2021 will make it, to make it appear, he told supporters he was going to walk to the US Capitol with them to fight like hell. See, look, I'm not going to get into this, but I'm not going to get into the details here, but Donald Trump doesn't seem to have really a case here. Case dismissed. It doesn't really have a case here because for two reasons. First of all, they did not misrepresent him because they took parts of what he had already said. So they did not put words in his mouth. They did not distort what he said. Trump was suggesting that the BBC had used AI. It's like they didn't use AI. And the BBC could actually have a counter case against him for lying about the BBC because they did not use AI. So he would actually have to present in court evidence that the BBC used AI. But there is no evidence. So, I think the BBC should sue Donald Trump for libel or slander, whichever it was. I don't know if it was said or if it was written. There's a case there against Donald Trump. Because he's lying. Like the BBC did not use AI, although in the White House he said that they did. It was actually it was slander. Also, his reputation was not damaged because Donald Trump doesn't have a reputation. It's like you can't lose something you don't have. So Donald Trump doesn't have a reputation, and it did not impact the election. So Donald Trump still won in 2024, so it did not impact his victory. If Donald Trump had lost, then you could perhaps bring some sort of case against the BBC. But Donald Trump did not lose. Donald Trump did not have his reputation damaged because he's already a liar and everybody knows that he's a liar. And the BBC did not put words in his mouth. What they did was wrong, and they've apologized for that. But what they did was they took the beginning of his speech and the end of the speech and put it together and made him appear a bit more aggressive. But they didn't lie. They misrepresented him in a way. The BBC put bad words in his mouth. Yeah, right. It's like as if they need to do that. But once again, I don't think this is going to go very far. It's interesting that conservatives in the UK have been championing Trump, have been saying, yeah, he's right, he needs to destroy the BBC. You know, these are the same people who claim to be patriots. Can you imagine if it was Obama who was, when he was in charge, if he was saying something against the BBC? What do you think the conservatives and reform would be saying in regards to Obama? No, we need to go to war with the United States. We need to bomb the White House or something like that. That's what they would be saying if it had been Obama criticizing the BBC or criticizing the UK. And Trump is constantly criticizing Europe and the UK. And his sycophants, people close to him, have been calling for regime change in the UK. And what is the response from Europe and the UK? We respect the Trump administration. We want to have a good relationship with them. Oh, my goodness. Thanks, Kirsty, for that. We have one from Brad as well. Trump, they put words in my mouth. Don't they realize the only things that are allowed in there are Diet Coke, McDonald's, and Putin's pen is? Well said, Brad. And Brad is correct. Those three things are the only things that are allowed in Donald Trump's mouth. He puts more than just words. I appreciate the kind words, everyone, but I'm not expecting it to get sorted straight away. Best of luck, Reagan Elite, and I really hope that it gets sorted. I went through something like that during the pandemic myself, and I understand. It can be nerve-wracking. It can be extremely stressful. His IQ is so low, the slugs pity him. Well said, Andy. So I think, look, this is about Donald Trump distracting. Once again, he's trying to distract from the Epstein files, or he's trying to distract from the state of the economy. He's trying to convince people not to focus on him or his economy, his economic situation. Trump has been criticizing the Democrats for using the term affordability. It's like cost of living. He doesn't want people talking about the cost of living crisis in the US because he'll try and blame Biden, he'll try and blame the Democrats, but the public, some people will buy into it, some people will accept his argument or his excuse, but most people will not. And as we saw when it came to the Conservatives in 2024, no matter how much they blamed the previous Labour government or blamed immigrants or blamed the war in Ukraine or the pandemic, people will hold you responsible and they'll vote you out if they don't feel the situation is improving. And I think the Republicans are in serious trouble because they're not selling anything positive. They just keep complaining and they keep blaming everyone else. And they're trying to also sell the idea that, don't worry, look at the stock market. The stock market is doing really well. Or the economy is booming. Look at all the money that's going into 5 or 6 companies. And ordinary people are looking around and seeing their businesses close. They're seeing layoffs. They're seeing migrants or asylum seekers or migrants in general being lifted. And this is having an impact on farming. It's having an impact on manufacturing, construction. A number of construction sites have seen ICE, the agency, come in and take people away without due process, of course. There was a clip of a woman walking around with her passport attached to her head because she saw, look, if ICE come to arrest me, at least they can see my American passport, even though I don't think that makes any difference. Increased unemployment is also a problem as well, which AI is feeding into. It's not the only thing, but Donald Trump's tariffs are driving up the cost of everything. And if things get too expensive for people to buy, then what do? They stop buying that stuff. And that, of course, has an impact on the local economy, on the national economy. So Donald Trump is making the situation worse for ordinary people. And he's still trying to convince them that, no, everything is great. Like if people are looking around and people are saying, hey, I can't afford to put petrol in my car, or I can't afford to pay the bills, or I can't afford health insurance, no amount of Donald Trump blaming somebody else is going to encourage them to vote for Donald Trump. And you're going to see eventually the Republicans distance themselves from Trump and try to blame Trump for all of these things and say, it's not our fault. Us Republicans have been, it's nothing to do with us. It's all down to Trump. And then Trump is in serious trouble. He wants to run again in 2028. I don't see how successful he'll be. Like, unless he turns things around, unless the situation for ordinary people improves, or he engages in, banning elections and rigging the vote. But I don't see it working in his favor. For example, here's another example of the Trump administration blaming other people.
Why have rents gone down for 4 consecutive months? And I know they're still too high, but why have rents gone down for 4 consecutive months? Because we're starting to get those illegal aliens out of the United States of America.
Have rents gone down? Really?
Those criminals, those gang members, those people who are taking homes that ought by right go to the people in this room and your children and your grandchildren. It's simple economics. If you have fewer people, fewer illegal aliens trying to buy homes, that means American
illegal aliens are buying homes. That's like
citizens.
I really don't like this is what you're going to hear from Reform in the future. Remember, it's all copy and paste from the US. Whatever MAGA is saying today, Nigel Farage and Reform will be saying 6 months from now. I can guarantee it. You can see the timeline. Copy and paste from the Trump administration, from MAGA. So if immigration goes down, well, of course, it'd have to be under a Nigel Farage government. But if fewer and fewer people come in, then they're going to say, well, there are more houses available. But that's not how it works. It doesn't really work like that. Please, no more Max. No, I won't show you any more of the Trump administration for today. So I'm bouncing between positive and negative stories. And here's a positive one. Here's a very positive one for young people. So it's, according to The Guardian, it calls that, UK to rejoin EU's Erasmus student exchange programme. Exclusive British students will be able to participate in the EU-wide scheme from January 2027. sources say. An agreement to rejoin Erasmus, the EU's student exchange programme, is expected to be announced on Wednesday as part of the UK government's drive towards closer relations with Brussels. Final details of the announcement have now been agreed by both sides that will allow UK students to participate in the EU-wide scheme without paying any additional fees from January 2027, sources say. The breakthrough on Erasmus will help the UK government demonstrate progress in its push to improve relations with the EU after Keir Starmer declared last month that we do need to get closer with the bloc and with public opinion softening. British students will be able to participate in the vocational training placements and sports exchanges across the EU under the Erasmus Plus scheme, as well as further education, college and university-based study exchanges, The Guardian understands. So this is positive news. Of course, the Erasmus scheme was available to the Boris Johnson government. It's an easy slip of the tongue there, or mistake to make. But it was available to the Boris Johnson government, but because Erasmus contains the word Europe and it's European, well, of course, the Brexiteers didn't want anything to do with the European Union, even if it was something positive for young people. They hate young people. Brexiteers generally don't like young people. We've seen numerous examples of that. So So Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers and the Tories refused to, it wasn't actually, it was an offer. There was no cost related to it. It was like, yeah, you can participate in Erasmus. And the UK said no, for ideological reasons, not practical ones. So this is something a little bit positive. It's positive for young people who are at university. Of course, it's not going to turn, it's not going to rebuild the UK overnight. It's not like rejoining the European Union. It's a very limited program, but it's something positive. And I think an incremental approach to Europe is perhaps a positive thing, that you get to a stage where people, if the Reform UK got in, it'd be unlikely that they would abandon this, because it would be taking stuff away from people. Because Brexit was sold as getting something, getting sovereignty, getting control, all of these things. So I think leaving, if Reform got into power, they probably wouldn't cancel the Erasmus student program. Or maybe they would out of spite, but it would be sold, it's once again, it'd be taking stuff away from people, and that would be something that the media should call out. Vance got through tough rents by self-serving. Thanks, Brad. Well said. He knew how to surf those sofas, didn't he? If you want to call it surfing. You heard the rumor about the DFS restraining order on Shady Pants as well. He's not allowed within 100 yards of a sofa store. he tries to view with binoculars, and then he's moved on by the police. It's like, move along, sir. Move along, Vice President. You've been caught out before. Please, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for all involved, and you're getting a bit of a reputation down at the precinct. So, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to cover another few stories before we finish. As a shorter stream tonight, there was a few other things I wanted to cover, but not sure what happened. This is interesting. Maybe it's a positive thing of AI. Maybe it's a negative thing of AI. But Google AI have released this, which seems a little bit Star Trek-ish. I want to show you this clip.
Salut, c'est Quentin. Et le modèle
Wait, just give me 1 second.
Ok, donc, Comme je le disais, le modèle Gemini
Okay,
fait maintenant
so,
la traduction
as I was
vocale
saying,
en direct.
The Gemini
Ça
model
marche
now
sur
does
Google
translation
Traduction
live.
avec n'importe quel
It
écouteur.
works on the Google
Comme vous pouvez
Translate
l'entendre,
app
je suis
with
traduit
any
en temps
headphones.
réel.
As you
Voyons ce
can
que cela
hear,
donne
I am
quand
being
je demande
translated
conseil
in
pour
real
mon prochain
time.
voyage à mes collègues.
Let's see what it's like when I ask for advice for my next trip from my
Allons-y.
colleagues. Let's go.
Hello. Ah, tellement besoin de vacances.
Oh,
Mais je
I
sais
need
pas
a
où aller.
vacation,
Est-ce que vous avez des idées?
but I don't know where to go. Do you have any ideas?
그럼 한국에 가봐. 서울에는 먹을 것도 많고
You should go to
볼 것도
Korea.
많잖아요.
There's
거기
lots
가면
of food and
음식
things to see in
좋아하잖아.
Seoul.
가면은
If you go there,
붕어빵도
you
있고,
love
헛도
food.
있고, 간장게장도
You can try
있고.
fish-shaped
서울 가면 좋을 것
pancakes
같은데?
and hot talk, soy marinated crabs. I think you'd like Seoul.
说到美食，那中国可有太多了。
Actually, China has a lot too. You could go to Beijing for Peking duck, or go to Chongqing for hot pot. That would be nice. Or go to Shanghai for our braised pork and pan-fried buns. I think you'll really like it.
Ja, wenn du irgendwo hingehen musst, dann würde ich unbedingt
Well,
nach Deutschland
to change
gehen.
things up,
Besonders
we
zu
could
dieser Zeit
definitely go to
dunkel
Germany.
und kalt ist,
Especially
da muss man
at this
zum
time when it's dark and cold, we have to go to a Christmas market. There's mulled wine, you can eat steamed dumplings. It's really beautiful.
그래서 이 중에서 어디 가고 싶어?
So, out of these, where do you want to go?
Je suis pas encore sûr, mais vous m'avez donné de bonnes idées.
I don't know yet,
Merci.
but I have some good ideas. Thank you.
Ça fonctionne bien dans plus de 70 langues.
It works well
plus
in
de
over
2000
70
pairs de
languages,
langues, et même quand
and
on est
even
en
over
déplacement.
2,000 pairs of languages, and even when we're on the move.
Let me show you.
Okay. So, somebody asked, is it wrong to ask people just to learn more languages? Yes. Look, it's better for your brain to learn a language. It's better for your mind. It's better for interaction with people. But I think this could be a useful tool for when people are going abroad. You know, you're going to a country that you know very little, you don't know the language, you don't know much about the culture. It could be a good way to help people communicate in emergency situations, or to maybe in business meetings, or to introduce yourself to people and you can't speak the language and you don't want to make mistakes. So it's better for your mind. It's better for you to learn a language, because it's about it's good for you. It's good for your mind. I'm not in the very connected mood tonight, but you're all totally lovely. I was glad to see you, Suzanne. Still wouldn't understand Glasgow. I was able to go anywhere in the world. I think I go to South Korea. Bloody love K-dramas. But I won't be going to the US anytime soon, I'm afraid. No, best to avoid the United States a little bit at the moment, because of, if you wrote anything about Donald Trump in the last 5 years, it could result in seeing you deported. It's good, but I feel like I'm in a dubbed Chinese kung fu movie. Yes. You should see Italian movies which are dubbed. It's perfectly dubbed. It's you don't even know that it has been dubbed. That's how good it is. But for English speakers, the dubbing is always terrible. Anyway, on Scotland, one final story before we go. It says here, Justice Secretary Angela Constance survives no confidence vote amid grooming gangs row. Scottish Labour, the Scottish Tories and the Scottish Liberal Democrats joined forces to vote against Miss Constance, but the motion failed due to the backing of the SNP and the Scottish Greens. So Scotland's Justice Secretary has survived a vote of no confidence amid claims that she misrepresented a leading expert on grooming gangs and therefore misled Parliament. MSP Angela Constance has ignored calls to stand down and has the First Minister John Sweeney's full backing in the wake of the comments she made about Professor Alex Jay. Mr. Sweeney led her defence, describing her as a sincere minister who was getting on with the job of making Scotland safer. Both Labour and the Scottish Conservatives lodged motions of no confidence with a debate held at Holyrood on Tuesday afternoon. Scottish Labour, the Scottish Tories and the Liberal Democrats in Scotland joined forces to vote against Miss Constance, but the motion failed. MSP Russell Finlay, leader of the Scottish Conservatives, said shameless SNP and Green MPs put partisan politics before truth and integrity, to the understandable fury of grooming gang victims. To any reasonable person, Angela Constance's position is untenable. She misled Parliament by misrepresenting Professor J, tried to cover it up and then publicly lied after being caught. She twisted Professor J's words to reject our calls for a Scottish grooming gangs inquiry and then failed to correct the record. So look, the Conservatives are trying to take advantage of, you know, this situation where we're seeing it in England as well. What they've been doing is reaching out to grooming gang victims, saying that we're on your side. Well, when the Conservatives were in power, they did not implement the findings of the previous inquiry. Why did they not do that? What was the motivation there? Because it would result in, well, an embarrassing situation for Conservative politicians. It would result in calls for more investment, and the Conservatives are against this. So I think this is a case of the Conservatives in particular seeing an opportunity to bring down the SNP government, and of course Labour and the Liberal Democrats smell blood in the water as well. So I think it's not a case of we truly care about the victims. It's more about here's an opportunity to bring down the SNP, and they believe that they are weak at the moment. And of course, this is before the May elections, which are coming up in 2026. So you're going to see tactical voting, I think, between Labour, the Conservatives, and the Liberal Democrats when it comes to the SNP. They see, I think they're united in their attacks on the SNP. And they see an opportunity to bring them down. Now, they're of course forgetting about Reform UK. Reform UK are in a pretty strong position, it seems, in Scotland. I don't know if they're going to win seats, but they'll definitely create problems for the other parties. And it seems that they don't want to focus too much on on Reform. They want to focus more on the SNP. Political hit jobs. I can't lie, all three parties are using the grooming gangs issue for clout, to be honest. It's the issue, it's an issue, but why can't we let the police and the detectives do their jobs and better systems of therapy for victims? Yes, I agree 100%. It's the findings from the previous inquiry should have been implemented. The government decided not to do that. This is the responsibility of those. For example, there are a number of shelters for domestic violence victims closed down because the Conservatives decided, well, we need to impose austerity. And this has left many women vulnerable at a time when they need support. Anyway, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much to the moderators for doing a wonderful job, as always. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat, greatly appreciated. Thanks for smashing the like button. And before we go, we have our one for the road, so hope you enjoy this. And I will see some of you on the post-stream chat tonight, and others I will see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. So enjoy this before we go.
Tommy! Oh, hey, what's going on? You have to help me.
Need a hand Christmas shopping?
They're after me, I can't leave the shop.
What?
They're out there, get down.
What's going on? Who's out there?
Charity collectors.
Charity collectors?
They've been following me since Henry Street.
Seriously?
Cancer, homelessness, the Dogs Trust. They're hunting in packs.
You know, if you don't want to donate, you can just say no.
You don't understand, they're professionals. You can't just say no, they're trained for that.
Just go out the Mary Street
They've
exit.
got all the exits covered, I don't know what to do.
Just be honest with them. Say you don't have the money.
That's the problem, I do have the money.
Oh.
Oh, guilt, it's killing me, it's Christmas.
I think you might be being paranoid about this whole thing.
They've got my family.
They have your family?
Deborah. She signed up for a monthly direct debit with the Red Cross.
Well, I mean, they do a lot of good work, so...
Do you think they can get in through the fence?
Don't be ridiculous.
Oh God, oh God.
Wait, relax, okay? I'll get you out of this. Okay?
Thank you, thank you.
When's the last time you donated? We could use that. Come on, the last time you gave to charity.
Never given?
Never?
No.
You've never given to charity?
But it's not my fault.
Oh, God.
Last Christmas, the new PlayStation came out. Before that, I had that trip to the Canaries.
Right.
And, this year, I got this really cool pool cue.
You don't even play pool. What'd you buy that for?
Yeah, well, no, I might take it up. I mean,
You know, I'm finding it really hard to find sympathy for you right now.
the shops are full of really cool things.
You know, some of those charities do really, really good work.
I know.
Take Friends of the Ocean, for instance. They get rid of over 1.3 million kilograms of plastic from the ocean each year. Isn't that something that you'd want? Something you want for the future of your children on this planet?
You're one of them.
What?
You're one of them.
No, don't be ridiculous.
Yes, you are.
Whoa. Oh, so how much will I stick you down for?
God, you guys are determined.
You say a tenner a month?
Fiver.
Absolutely, just sign here. You've done a great thing today.
Whatever.
Oh, hi. How's it going? Do you have a second for Friends of the...
If you're looking to give to
Wonderful, guys. So have a great week. I'll see you on Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe. Take care and good night.